Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. We'll get started here as more people are joining. But welcome to Security, Compliance, Identity, and Privacy Highlights from Microsoft Ignite. My name is Jean Blackowitz, and I lead a team of security, compliance, and identity specialists at Microsoft. I'm delighted to have you all join us for today's exciting and informative session. Microsoft Ignite is an annual event where we showcase our latest innovations and solutions for the enterprise. This year, the event was held the week before Thanksgiving, both in person and virtually. In this event, we will focus on the key announcements and updates from Microsoft Ignite related to security, compliance, identity, and privacy. As you all know, these are some of the most critical and challenging areas for organizations today, as you all face constantly changing and increasing cyber threats, regulatory pressures, and customer expectations. During today's event, we encourage you to ask questions in the Q&A feature on your screen, and we will try to answer as many as possible during the event or follow up with you later. You can also use the chat feature to interact with other attendees and to share your insights and experiences. Before we begin, let me go through a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded and will be available after the session. We are honored to have today's speakers, Jim Eckert, Executive Security Advisor, and Corey McLean, Principal Technical Specialist. Their bios are available on the event website. So thank you for your attention and participation. And now let's get started with the webinar. Over to you, Jim.
All right, thanks, Jean. Let me just take control very quickly and talk about the agenda and introduce the topics. And so during Ignite, we actually had about 17 different announcements. And so what Corey and I are going to attempt to do is fit about 17 hours worth of content into a 1-hour briefing, just for a high-level briefing so that you can kind of know what came out of Ignite. And so we'll hit on several different areas with security, data security and compliance, some advances that we've made in the identity space, and then, of course, endpoint management. And so there's several subtopics that we'll get into, but I won't drain the agenda here because this is going to be a pretty full hour, I think. But when you think about what we actually announced at Microsoft Ignite just before Thanksgiving, what it is Microsoft continues to build on a platform that we've been talking about in a similar manner for actually a number of years now. And so when you think about 6 families of products that Microsoft has been working on, really from a platform approach. We've got threat protection and cloud security on the left with Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Defender. Those are huge families of products, and so we're going to spend some time talking about some of the updates that we've added to those families. At the bottom, you can see Microsoft Entra and Microsoft Intune. And so once again, those tend to be the foundations of a zero trust architecture. And so we've made some huge advances and additions in those different product families that we'll spend some time talking about as well. And then certainly last but not least is when you think about data security, compliance, and privacy, and how we protect information cradle to grave, we've got Microsoft Purview and Microsoft Priva. And so we actually made some really large announcements around that and how all of that relates to artificial intelligence and all of the co-pilots that we've been talking about as well. But once again, though, the emphasis is we continue to add functionality to the Microsoft security platform, the platform that is not just for Microsoft, it's Microsoft for a multi-cloud, highly distributed IT environment. And so that's how we want to think about it. And so we continue to build out and make more fully capable that entire platform. And so when you think about what is actually in the platform, as we approach our customers and we talk about how we consume this, some of it is consumed by licenses and some of it is consumed by our actual consumable capabilities. And we're not here to discuss the licensing techniques, but what we would actually say, though, is that from a licensing perspective, we can help organizations consolidate literally over 50 different product categories into a single licensing SKU. And the licensing SKU is not my point of emphasis here. It's the way we build that into a common platform where all of these capabilities are intended to work together and intended to feed into machine learning approaches and artificial intelligence approaches so that we can actually leverage and expand the capabilities of security organizations without them having to do so much work on their own. And so literally, we have capabilities across identity, security, compliance, privacy management, and even managed services that we can add on top of that. So really helping organizations not have to do as much vendor management, not have to do as much of their own system integration, and really get on with the job of doing cyber risk management. Secondarily is when we think about the capabilities that we have innately built into the cloud, into the Azure cloud, there's a whole set of other capabilities that you can think about, primarily consumable capabilities, and we won't go deeply into this. It's not the point of this particular conversation to go deeply into this, other than to just put on your radar screen, and in a way that you can reference in the future, different capabilities that are innately available when you're using Azure capabilities. But we can also extend many of these same capabilities into other cloud providers as well. And so we're trying to be very open, once again, for your highly distributed IT environment that includes still some on-prem infrastructure, as well as the fact that we know that many organizations are multi-cloud organizations. And so when we harken back to the agenda that I showed, what I'll do is I'll turn this over to my friend and colleague, Corey, to actually spend some time talking us through some of the updates that we made at Ignite around the security capabilities. So Corey, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. I'll hop on video real quick just for introductions, but then I'm going to drop back off just so I'm not staring at my reflection. So, for this first slide and first section of slides, I guess, we're talking about security. And, as Jim was mentioning, the overarching theme for this year's Ignite is how we're working to empower our customers to thrive in this era of AI. So we announced key updates across Microsoft's suite of security solutions. Largely what we're focused on today is, the ones that are designed to help SOC or Security Operations Center professionals operate more efficiently and better protect their assets and data. So before I begin sharing the first announcements on security, I just want to point out that at the bottom of many of the slides are links that you can click on to get more information about the details shared on that slide. And as Gene mentioned earlier, if you have questions, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A functionality, and we'll make sure to get you answers. So to start, we have exciting news about the next step in the SIEM and XDR journey. So Defender XDR and Sentinel are being unified into a single powerful user experience, which I'll show on the next slide. This unification, along with the addition of Microsoft Security Copilot Generative AI, would change how customers manage their security operations and protect their assets and data. This will further improve efficiency and ease of use with a single experience for their security operations tools. This will mean less clicking, less context switching, less training for more robust insights. With the automation of cutting-edge AI and automation technologies, defenders will be able to level up their skills with guided response across first and third-party data sets. And as part of this unification, we added new scenarios for automatic attack disruption to include SAP. Automatic attack disruption was a capability that we announced during Ignite last year in 2022 and allows shifting left in threat response, defending at machine speed, and improves key SOC metrics like MTTA and MTTR by stopping attackers early in the attack kill chain. And I want to note too, there's no changes to licensing or consumption costs for either of these products. It's just additional value for customers who have invested in both. We're also bringing an embedded experience for Security Copilot into Defender XDR. The benefits of an embedded generative AI tool will help analysts to level up their SIEM and XDR skills. Security Copilot will help by using natural language to write Kusto query language or KQL queries, understand malicious scripts, create incident summaries, and provide support throughout the investigation and remediation process. Number two, Microsoft Defender 365 is now Microsoft Defender XDR. This new name best represents Microsoft's extended detection and response, or XDR, capabilities that span beyond products that are included in Microsoft 365 suite. Think about like the user-centric security tools, including Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Office 365, Defender for Identity, and Defender for Cloud Apps, with the integration of Defender for Cloud Signal into the security.microsoft.com portal. And I'll explain a little bit more about Defender for Cloud in a few more slides. The native security solutions protect devices across Windows, Linux, macOS, Android, and iOS, as well as Jim mentioned, multi-cloud environments spanning Azure, AWS, and GCP or Google Cloud Platform. Again, no changes here to the licensing or consumption costs for either of these products. Again, just additional value for customers who have invested in both. And third, in Defender for Endpoint, we're adding a new deception technique to auto-deploy decoys. So admins will be able to automatically generate and disperse decoys and lures at scale that resemble real users and assets in the organization. This will allow SOC teams to detect and focus on attacks even more effectively by providing early state, high fidelity signal and trap attackers. Here's a screenshot of the Defender XDR portal with the new Sentinel unification. In the top right, we can see some of those key SOC metrics like MTTA, MTTR from Sentinel. Right below that is additional dashboard information from Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Defender for Threat Intelligence. And then on the left navigation bar, we see the inclusion of familiar items for Microsoft Sentinel in the Azure portal. So here are some additional announcements around XDR and SIEM. As mentioned on the previous slide or previous couple slides, the Microsoft 365 Defender portal located at security.microsoft.com is now the Defender XDR portal as a result of that integration with Defender for Cloud. Number two, there's a new feature that will support SOCs in ensuring that they're maximizing the value of the data that they're ingesting into Sentinel, with recommendations that will help them to save money, improve coverage, and better secure themselves against specific threats. Number three is actually a bunch of announcements combined. So the first of those, we've streamlined security settings management in the Defender XDR portal by removing the dependency on the Microsoft Intune Admin Center. We also have now native support for Linux and macOS, removing dependencies on third-party management tools. We also have easy and reliable device enrollment by removing the dependency on Entra ID, previously known as Azure AD, and we significantly reduced the number of URLs required to connect to cloud services during onboarding, added options for IP addresses, and simplified post-deployment network management, which network admins will appreciate. And lastly, Defender for Endpoint now supports Windows Subsystem for Linux, or WSL, which is also better integrated with Intune for managing those security settings of WSL. Number four, we've added over 400 generative AI apps to Defender for Cloud Apps, which helps to control shadow IT and DLP. And number five, E5 customers now get to benefit from enterprise IoT security coverage at no additional cost. This allows organizations to assess misconfigurations and vulnerabilities for devices such as VoIP phones, printers, security cameras, smart TVs, and more. Next, I'm going to talk about cloud security with Defender for Cloud. Microsoft Defender for Cloud helps organizations protect those multi-cloud and hybrid environments with comprehensive security across the full lifecycle, from development to runtime. So there's several key updates that will help security admins adopt a comprehensive cloud-native application protection strategy and improve security posture across those multi-cloud environments and DevOps platforms. Defender for Cloud falls in this new category of Cloud Native Application Protection Platform, or CNAPP, and Microsoft is investing to offer a comprehensive solution as we demonstrated and have been talking through so far. CNAPP is all about protecting apps and infrastructure that you develop and run in the cloud. So number one, we're unifying identity and access permissions insights to improve cloud security posture through the integration with Microsoft Entra Permissions Management. If you're not familiar with that name, that's the evolution of our acquisition of CloudKnox several years ago. Security admins will be able to get a centralized view of the permissions creep index, drive least privilege access control for cloud resources, and get proactive attack path analysis that connects the dots between access permissions to other potential vulnerabilities across Azure, AWS, and GCP. Next, we're helping to reduce recommendation fatigue and efficiently remediate critical risks with a risk-based recommendation with our new enhanced attack path analysis engine to identify and prioritize remediation of more complex risks, such as cross-cloud attack paths. Additionally, the new ServiceNow integration will enable admins to use their existing system to automate or drive mitigation of those risks. And lastly, security admins will be able to gain efficiency in discovering and remediating risks with the power of AI-generated guidance using natural language with the Security Copilot integration. There's also a new preview of GitLab, which means that Defender for Cloud now supports the 3 major developer platforms. We are retiring the preview that was ongoing of Defender for DevOps based on feedback, and we're simplifying the strategy and evolving for customers. That value will now be available in Defender for Cloud as part of the Defender CSPM capabilities. New code to cloud mapping will also enable security admins to rapidly accelerate the time and effort to address critical security flaws right in the code itself. Security admins will be able to get ahead of containerized application risks and prioritize misconfigurations and exposures in their Kubernetes deployments with the expansion of Defender Cloud Security Posture Management, or CSPM, which is a contextual graph-based capability that extends to Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, EKS, and Google Kubernetes Engine, GKE clusters. Next, Defender for APIs is now generally available, which provides visibility of business-critical APIs, allowing prioritization of vulnerability fixes and quick detections of active real-time threats for APIs that are published in Azure API Management. New preview capabilities targeting sensitive data classification powered by Microsoft Purview and curated attack paths will help security admins further safeguard data from API risks. Now I'm going to talk about Security Copilot, threat intelligence, and our first-party managed security services. So number one, Security Copilot has 2 experiences: the immersive or standalone experience and a new embedded experience where it's integrated into the Microsoft security, compliance, identity, and management products that you use today and we're talking through today. I'm not going to walk through the details of each of these embedded experiences, but you'll see some examples of them today, and they include Entra, Intune, Purview, Defender, External Attack Surface Management, EASM, which is the evolution of our integration of the RiskIQ acquisition several years ago, Defender for Cloud, and Defender XDR. Number 2, MDTI. We've said that threat intel should empower every organization. We're providing the standard experience of MDTI for free to any Defender XDR customer within that unified Defender XDR portal. This includes vulnerability profiles, detonation intelligence, and also integration with Security Copilot. I also want to mention that included with Security Copilot is MDTI Premium, which adds functionality around API access, as well as full articles, analysis, and intelligence profiles, and also Microsoft IOCs, Microsoft Enrich OSINT, and URL and file intelligence. And lastly, Defender Experts for XDR, as Jim mentioned in his introduction, is our first-party managed service for security. We're introducing a new API here to integrate into third-party tools and see progress of our experts' work on your cases for the alerts that they are mitigating. We're also improving on the onboarding experience and a new Teams chat to allow collaboration with our experts in real time. Here's a screenshot of the Defender XDR portal with that new Security Copilot embedded experience. So on the right, the red highlighted box, we can see an incident summary as generated by Security Copilot. And below that are guided response actions with suggestions to a SOC analyst for what tasks to do next as part of this incident remediation. Here's another screenshot of the Defender XDR portal with the new Security Copilot embedded experience. In the middle pane, where the details of the timeline are shown, we can see that in this example, there was a particular step where an obfuscated PowerShell script was run. Defender XDR de-obfuscated the script, but it isn't necessarily human readable yet. We can click the Analyze button above the script, and then we see in the red highlighted box to the right, a detailed and easy to understand explanation of what each part of the script does, which helps even a junior analyst understand the intent and motive and decide if this was malicious. That wraps up my announcements on security. So I'm going to pass it back over to Jim to talk through the compliance announcements.
All right, thanks, Corey. So moving on to some of the compliance announcements, particularly around data security, compliance, and privacy. Some really interesting developments here. And so let's just jump in first with securing AI with Microsoft Purview. And so if you're familiar with Microsoft Purview, this has been our end-to-end information protection and governance solution. And so the first topic we're going to talk about is how we're extending that into AI and into our copilots. Because one of the things that since the introduction of AI and the introduction of copilots across almost every one of our capabilities at Microsoft, one of the biggest concerns that has come up is how do I secure AI? How do I know what's going on with AI? And so that's what we're intending to address here. And the velocity with which organizations are actually preparing their AI strategies. Right now, our research would show that about 97% of organizations are preparing AI strategies. And so a strategy without security and compliance considerations would be missing something, indeed. And so the first thing that I'll talk about then is securing AI with Microsoft Purview. And so there's three key things to note here. Is the first is Purview AI Hub. And similar to other Purview capabilities around structured data and unstructured data that you might be familiar with, is giving administrators the ability to understand how AI is being used. And so that's the purpose of Purview AI Hub, is to give visibility into what kinds of AI activity are taking place. What's the total number of users that are using it, and how are they using it? And particularly is sensitive data flowing into the AI prompts. And so we can get some analytics on that so that administrators can understand how this is being adopted by the organization. And so this will be taking place in Copilot for M365 and other commonly used third-party AI applications like Bard, DALL-E, ChatGPT, and the like. And so this is really going to be describing the behaviors that we're seeing in terms of AI usage and adoption. The second big thing that we want to focus on is policy enforcement. So the policies to secure data in AI prompts and responses. And so what we would say about Microsoft Purview is that this is going to allow us to understand in M365 how to honor data classification labels and the restrictions that go along with those labels as AI is ingesting information from within your tenant. So that only the information you intend to be ingested actually gets factored into that. And then how to honor those same labels as content is being surfaced or as content is being generated. And so we will be honoring those labels throughout the entire process: ingestion, surfacing of information, and even the generation of additional information. And so that's going to be a wonderful thing to help us do policy enforcement and give us the confidence to know that sensitive information is not being lost. In addition, we will be able to prevent users from pasting sensitive information and uploading sensitive documents to over 100 different consumer AI applications, such as Bard, ChatGPT, and the like, on supported browsers. And so that list of consumer AI applications, of course, will grow and grow because AI is growing by leaps and bounds. And so we will keep up with that so that we can do good policy enforcement of your organization's information. And then last but not least, in any type of regime like this where we're trying to understand, control, and explain what AI has been doing, is the compliance controls for AI. And so what we will do here is we will capture in audit trails, just as we do in many other audit trails across other Purview services. We'll capture in audit trails what users have been doing, the time that they've spent there, the docs that have been accessed, submitted, and the like. We will be able to preserve and collect information for investigations, litigations, and e-discovery, so that we don't fall subject to spoilage and different issues like that are associated with the legal discovery process and the electronic discovery process. Retention and deletion policy. So thinking about the whole records management process that we're already probably familiar with prior Purview capabilities, we have extended those same capabilities into the AI space as well to make sure that we retain data as long as we're legally obligated to do so. And then finally, detecting business or regulatory violations in Copilot interactions with communication compliance. And so what does that look like from a dashboard perspective then is what you might actually notice then is we can actually see the number of users who are actually using this. And that's somewhat interesting information, but even more interesting is what classifications of information are those users actually using within AI, and the ability to double click on any of these bar charts and get more detailed analytics. And then understanding what different Gen AI or AI solutions users are using as well. And so once again, the whole idea is to help administrators better understand and control how users are consuming AI and Copilot within their environment. Just one more example, and this is a bit of a different type of screen grab, is we can actually see the different actions that have been performed by users, whether they're document uploads, document copies, and the like. We can put this in audit mode, or we can put this in a blocking mode and actually enforce some DLP-like actions when we're interacting with AI prompts. And so we can get a good understanding of how users are dealing with the AI. Now, moving on to Security Copilot in Purview. So how is Security Copilot now helping out security administrators, security analysts with regard to Purview? And so this is really about being able to more productively and comprehensively understand user risk. And so what we have done, as Corey talked about in his section, is we have taken Copilot and we've started embedding it into other capabilities as well. And so what you'll notice on this slide, and I don't intend to drain all of the points, but what we're doing is really a lot of analysis and summarizing of user activity, whether it's unintentional mishandling of information, whether it's intentional mishandling of information. But what we all know as security professionals is it can be very, very difficult to piece together all the information that we need to know what the user's intent was, what they're trying to accomplish, and how they've been trying to accomplish it. And so what's really important in this announcement of Purview and Security Copilot is that we are using Copilot to literally stitch together from a variety of different Microsoft capabilities everything that the user has been doing, from their identity, from how they're handling information, what was the status of their machine, and the like, so that we can actually put together, almost use Copilot to do a pre-investigation, whereas that would have been activity that a security analyst would have had to do themselves to weave all of this information together. And that takes hours and hours to do. Security Copilot is going to make that a much more trivial exercise. And so the AI-powered summarization, investigation, and the ability to use natural language queries to understand what users have been doing, whether it's malicious mishandling of information or the unintentional mishandling of information, is really important. And so just to give a little bit of an illustration of that is, here is a natural language question that you could ask to Copilot within Purview. Show me any risky activities from this user in the past 30 days. So this user has been brought up to us as something that is of interest. And so what we can see in this example is that this user has browsed malware websites. And so they've been involved in 5 events where they browsed malware websites. This user has been conducting sequential activity that is associated with downloading documents and sending email attachments. And so things that look like it might be malicious type of activity. And then we can see further that this user has been involved in possibly exfiltrating data. And so once again, if we think about the labor burden of a SOC analyst having to go and sort all of this stuff out, when this type of information was literally produced in seconds with Copilot, and its ability to weave all of this together and get a fuller understanding of what the user was doing. And then I see a question about the fuzzy resolution. Nothing I can do about that now, but perhaps we can improve that when we put this deck out. And at the link at the bottom of these pages, you can get to these diagrams with full resolution images. So thanks for that comment. What we can see in this diagram now is, can I also, now that I'm interested in this user's activity, because it looks like they might have been up to some no good, it's like, can you tell me what all files this user has interacted with over the past 7 days or 14 days or whatever the timing is? And so we can then go in and see all of the different files that they might have accessed, so that we can understand if we've got a bigger problem on our hands. So all of this, again, facilitated with Copilot, minimal work done by the security analyst to do this. And so it's really driving a productivity gain, as well as adding to the comprehensiveness of what we can understand about some of those potential security incidents that are taking place. Now moving on to data protection in a multi-cloud environment. And so there's several exciting announcements in this one from my perspective. One of them is the fact that we have a unified data map, classification service, and portal. And so with this, we have a unified engine that is able to go and scan a number of different places, whether it's Microsoft properties. So first off, places, and we can build out more of a data map, a data catalog of the customer's environment to help them better understand what types of assets they've got. But as importantly is gaining visibility across the estate. Azure and AWS as well. And so, and then we've got other properties like Box.com, Dropbox, Google Drive. And one of the things that when we start thinking about the insider risk capabilities that already exist within the Purview offering, we now have extended that insider risk capability. Corey talked about different development capabilities, different development libraries. We've extended, we've had high customer demand into understanding insider risk around GitHub and when we're actually seeing the malicious mishandling of code and configurations and the like. And so we have taken on that set of capabilities as well in a multi-cloud environment. So pretty exciting announcements from that perspective. Now moving into the identity space, this is the space of Entra. Some pretty interesting productivity plays here for people who have to administer identities. And so what we have done once again is, as Corey mentioned, we have brought Security Copilot into the Entra space, or the Azure Active Directory space, as it was formerly known. And so one of the things that I think is really super important as somebody who has actually been a security practitioner and who has owned AD and AAD and owned over 40% of the help desk tickets related to some type of authentication experience or not understanding what is going on, is now with Copilot, we can enable SOC teams to actually discover and troubleshoot a variety of different situations. So the first one is we're enabling SOC teams to discover high-risk users, overprivileged access, and suspicious sign-ons. And so this allows, so again, Security Copilot is actually going and doing the analysis and starting the analysis and the investigation for SOC teams. But not only is it starting the investigation, but when we start getting into overprivileged access, Copilot is also going to give recommendations for actually how we can draw down that overprivileged access and what a more appropriate level of privileges would be. So it's not just describing the problem, but also helping you to fix the problem as well. And so it's not just pointing out the issues, but helping to fix them in addition. One of the other things which is really interesting is as we have rolled out conditional access and made that available to organizations, it becomes a little bit of a question that comes into IT organizations all the time is, why do I get MFA sometimes? Why do I at other times not get MFA prompts? And so we can go in and using natural language questions, ask Copilot issues like that is why did I have an MFA prompt in this specific situation? And I'll show you an example of what that looks like, where it actually explains why, what is it that triggered an MFA prompt in a specific situation where it had not previously taken place. So to jump to that, and again, this might be a little bit fuzzy, but what we can see here is a set of authentications that have actually taken place. And when I click on one of these, what I can see is that the authentication, I can see all of the different steps that the user has gone through, and then I can finally see that the sign-on took place from a different browser that we didn't know anything about, from an IP address that we didn't know anything about, which caused us to want to pop an MFA prompt. And so you can see that enough conditions changed in terms of our continuous access evaluation that we wanted to pop a prompt that would actually give us more confidence in the type of certainty on that authentication that the workload deserves. And so that's the kind of capability where we can go in and ask Copilot to explain to us why this happened. And if we have to actually answer the user, we can do so more readily with a lot more work going into having to do that process. On the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about Security Service Edge. And for the past couple of years, Microsoft has clearly been talking about zero trust as an architectural approach to reducing risk, increasing agility, and the like. And we have always talked about identity and device security posture as being the foundations of our zero trust approach. And so with Security Service Edge, we're actually adding a third capability that customers can build into their zero trust foundation, which is the network location and the network and the network destinations that we're trying to get to. And so factoring network in as one more thing. And so ultimately what we're trying to get to is I think we all understand that the network has declined in its effectiveness to be a good security perimeter, and everything is being identity driven. And so what we really would like to do is relegate the network down as close as possible to a transport layer and not really a security layer. And so that's what Security Service Edge is helping us to move closer and closer to. And so when we think about Microsoft thinks about this in two different ways. One of them is internet access capabilities. So think about this capability as the ability for your device, when properly authenticated to get to any number of SaaS-based applications. And so then on the right-hand side, think about private access capabilities is the ability to create a VPN-like experience to your own private capabilities that allows you to actually replace the VPN capabilities that you have and allows the device to tunnel through straight to your private workloads. So if we look on the left around internet access capabilities, universal conditional access is this capability where Microsoft when we authenticate to any SaaS-based property, we are going to be able to apply conditional controls to that SaaS property, which allows us to enforce different issues like DLP, read-only type of capabilities. Based on the risk or the conditions of that access session, we will be able to enforce different types of capabilities that perhaps the SaaS-based application doesn't itself offer to us to enforce or offer at all. The next big thing that comes out of this is the ability to avoid token theft protection. And so token theft is one of these really large issues that we've had with when tokens are stolen and then they're replayed in another environment. And so we can actually look for we can prevent token theft, and we can also have the ability with some additional capabilities announced in Entra ID to look for token replay issues where we see those having unusually long times to live, as well as being played out in unusual regions of the world, etc. And then finally, we get into context-aware web gateways. And so the ability to filter on content that the user is trying to get to. So basic web content filtering from that device with the service built into the Security Service Edge. Now, on the right-hand side, when we get into private access capabilities, once again, this is the ability for the device, when properly authenticated with a user, to actually tunnel through to your private workload. And so what that involves is we are trying to help organizations replace their VPN capabilities, which have in the past been exploited for human-operated ransomware and the like. And the second thing that this is going to allow us to do is to apply MFA to all on-prem apps. Whether that on-prem app readily supports MFA or not, we can support that at the network layer as well. And so that is a pretty new service for Microsoft, and we'll continue to build that out and add plenty more capabilities to that over time. Now let's jump into Entra ID capabilities. And so one of the first big announcements that we have here is Microsoft Managed Conditional Access Policies. And so what the big thing is that customers for quite a while now have been asking Microsoft to have services configured secure by default, whereas we've tried to stay out of the way in the past of customers, and so that has led to less secure defaults. Now we're securing by default, and so for instance. Last year, Microsoft turned on security defaults in Microsoft Entra ID for almost 7 million existing tenants, which cut the number of compromises in those tenants by 80%. And so that was a big deal. And so based on the success of that customer feedback, we will be automatically enrolling eligible tenants into conditional access policies based on customer risk signals, their current usage, and licensing capabilities. And so one of the first things that we will start with is 3 policies that enforce MFA in high-risk scenarios, because I think we all understand that MFA is effective in over 99% of the cases from preventing identity theft and identity compromises. So that's what's going on with conditional access policies is more approaches to secure by default, secure out of the box, and we're looking for more and more ways to do that without being disruptive to customers. The next big area is Microsoft Entra certificate-based authentication. And so here, using certificate-based authentication, of course, we no longer require customers to need federated services like ADFS, and we allow customers to use their own X.509 certificates from their own PKI infrastructure. Now we're introducing additional flexibility and additional policy enhancements that allow customers to customize policies based on the certificate, their certificate strengths, resource types, and user groups. And so now we're adding more flexibility, more ability to add additional forms of security, like even though you have a certificate, we may actually, with conditional access, still call on an MFA prompt or the like, but we're giving customers more control over how they would like to further strengthen and utilize certificates in their environment. And then last but not least is within Microsoft Authenticator, we're now supporting Entra ID users the ability to store passkeys that are managed inside the Authenticator app. And so you'll be able to use those as phish-resistant authentication credentials to get into apps. And when we get into phish-resistant credentials, then that's actually helping us to solve some of the identity problems that we've had in the past. And with that, I am going to jump over a slide, and Corey, I'm going to turn it back over to you for endpoint management, because there's some really exciting stuff going on there as well.
Thanks so much, Jim. I was just wrapping up some questions or answering some questions in the chat and Q&A. So yeah, so with that, I'm going to jump into the Intune announcements. So these are really centered around 3 different categories. So again, the Security Copilot experience that's embedded into Intune. New solutions coming out into the Intune suite as it is scaled out to bring more economic value to customers, and the better together story of Intune and Windows. So number 1, the Security Copilot experience is embedded into Intune as part of the early access program for Security Copilot. So this is integrating insights and data from security and management tools, providing customized guidance through generative AI to address an organization's specific requirements like intelligent policy creation and deployment, and faster, easier troubleshooting. And then number 2, there was 3 new Intune suite solutions that were announced. So the first of those being Intune Enterprise Application Management, which helps organizations simplify how they package, deploy, and update third-party applications. So a significant challenge, faced by many organizations today is keeping their applications updated and secure. And this was underscored in a Microsoft Digital Defense report, which revealed that 78% of devices remain unpatched 9 months after a critical vulnerability fix was released. A lag in applying patches and updating applications is a key vulnerability, making organizations susceptible to cyber attacks. Navigating applications from different developers and ensuring each one is current, it's cumbersome. Enterprise App Management enables IT and SecOps to simplify the lifecycle of managing first-party and third-party applications by offering a secure, prepackaged catalog of apps. The second on this list, Intune Advanced Analytics provides insights for measuring how an organization is working and the quality of the experience that's being delivered to users. It can help identify policies or hardware issues that might be slowing down devices, help teams proactively make improvements before end users generate help desk tickets. And analytics aims to improve that end user productivity and reduce IT support costs through the proactive means and detecting regressions to the end user experience rather than through a slow, costly, and reactive support channel. Public key infrastructure for the third on this list, PKI, it's enormously complex, time-consuming, and requires deep expertise. For many years, customers have been asking for a cloud-based PKI offering, and in February 2024, we have an answer for that with Microsoft Cloud PKI, which is a key addition to the Microsoft Intune suite. At launch, Cloud PKI will be able to issue certificates across platforms, specifically Windows, iOS, macOS, and Android. This is an end-to-end solution that provides SaaS-based certificate registration authority, doing away with the complexities and cost of traditional on-prem services like network device enrollment services or NDES, as well as reverse proxies. Again, these 3 new products are coming to the Intune suite and will be generally available in February without an increase in price. And lastly, with number 3, the Intune suite is coming to GCC, with GCC High and DoD following soon in the future. So this screenshot is showing that embedded experience of Security Copilot in Microsoft Intune. So focusing on the right side, there's a pane that can be toggled to access this functionality. So this example shows how Security Copilot can reduce the time and complexity of building safe and impactful security and configuration policies. So using natural language, IT can swiftly turn requirements into policies, saving time on drafts and making it easy to understand the impact of those policies across your digital estate. Here's another screenshot of the Security Copilot embedded experience in Intune to help prevent misconfigurations in your environment by showing what-if analysis of policy deployments, highlighting important details such as policy conflicts, any risks to user security, or even productivity impacts. And this is the last slide of announcements. So this slide, like I mentioned, kind of lists through the Windows and Intune Better Together story, which really strengthens the value of Windows and Microsoft 365. So first on the left, Windows Local Admin Password Service, or LAPS, has been a hotly requested capability for a SaaS offering to secure the local admin accounts on Windows devices and to be able to mitigate any pass the hash and lateral traversal types of attacks. So new in features with this new cloud service include native integration into Windows, so no more MSI installers, support for Entra ID, previously Azure AD, and many new supported capabilities for even on-prem AD scenarios that couldn't be done before with the legacy LAPS. Mobile application management is available now for Windows for BYOD scenarios, as it was with Android and iOS, although currently only for the Edge browser. So this allows for protection of organizational data and privacy of personal data, even when a BYOD device is unmanaged by an MDM solution like Intune. Microsoft Tunnel is a VPN gateway solution for Microsoft Intune that runs in a container on Linux and allows access to on-prem resources from iPad or iPad OS, as well as Android enterprise devices using modern auth and conditional access. and it now supports up to 20,000 devices per gateway server. Next item, configuration refresh. So this will mitigate the impact of malicious or inadvertent changes by refreshing and overwriting the device policies as frequently as every 30 minutes. Security baselines are pre-configured settings following Microsoft best practice recommendations, and they take advantage of the latest OS capabilities for Windows 10 and 11, provides baseline policies for Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft 365 apps for Enterprise, or previously known as Office, Edge, and Windows 365. These baselines are customizable and allow granular enforcement of settings and values. These baselines help customers embrace secure by default posture. And then at the bottom of that list on the left is something I mentioned previously in the security section, with WSL now being configurable by Intune. And then on the right is an announcement actually made a month ago before Ignite. So customers asked for a better experience with having a single solution capable of managing all endpoints across platforms in one place. So as a result, the experience of Mac management with Intune has been completely transformed, and new features are coming early next year that will drive even better outcomes. Everything that makes Intune the preferred management solution for mobile devices and other endpoints will be part of our Mac management experience, thanks to our close relationship with Apple and our desire to delight our customers. This allows our customers to consolidate tools, simplify operations, enhance secure productivity with a more consistent experience across Windows and Mac OS. So this ends my slides on Intune announcements. So I'll pass it back to Jean to close us out.
Well, thank you so much, Jim and Corey, for all of your prep work and for consolidating all these announcements that took a couple of days to get through, and actually in the event itself at Ignite. But really appreciate the work to consolidate it down into the time that we've had here. I know there's a lot of interest out there to understand how to take advantage of these new opportunities. And perhaps if you're a user of Microsoft solutions, but not all of the different components that we have and were discussed today, please get in touch with your security specialist. I joked in the chat, security, compliance, identity, privacy, and management specialist. I hope you all have a great holiday season, and thanks again for joining.